Shana tova, Happy New Year. Welcome to the first day of 5781. I'm Rabbi Liz Hirsch. For those who joined us last evening for Erev Rosh Hashanah, welcome back. If you're joining us for the first time for our virtual High Holy Day services, welcome. We are so happy to be joining together in sacred community. While we are separated by distance, we are united as a temple family and extended family. We are experiencing High Holy Days unlike any other. This goes hand in hand with the state of our world. Nothing is the same right now. So in some ways, I hope our High Holy Day services offer you a sense of comfort and familiarity. We will sing familiar tunes. We will read our familiar words of Torah. Cantor Rachel Slusky, who has joined us in past years, joins us once again. You will see familiar faces. We are grateful to the many members of our temple family, our leadership, staff, volunteers, and beyond, who help to make these High Holy Days possible. Today is the first day of a new year. Today, the world is born. Today, we are one community united. Today, we turn a new page and begin a new chapter. Today, we have the chance to move onward and upward toward a new world. Welcome. Here we are. We are stiff-necked and stubborn. Teach us to bend before you. Convinced we're right, entrenched in our own perspective, we resist your call to repent. Convinced we're self-sufficient, entrenched in the illusion of control, we resist your call to humility. Convinced we can have it all, entrenched in the dream of mastering the world, we resist your call to wake up. Today, you summon us out of our arrogance, out of rigidity, fantasy, shallowness, self-deception. Teach us to bend our knees, to bow our heads before the mystery, to realize our frailty and our finitude. Teach us to make you Melech, sovereign in our life, to align ourselves with your goodness and truth. We would not bow before Pharaoh. We would not bow before the Persian lord. We would not submit to any power on earth or give ourselves to any material thing. But we, the Jewish people, stiff-necked, stubborn to the end, today we bow before you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shechecheyanu, V'kiyemanu, V'higiyanu, Lazman Hazeh.
שציפתנו ירב לפניך, אל רם ונישא. הרי שציפתנו ירב לפניך, אל רם ונישא. מבין ומאזין, מביט ומקשיב, לכל תקיע. תקיעתנו, ותקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון, סדר וסדר מלכויותינו.
A teaching from Rabbi Shalom Noach Berezovsky and Rabbi Brian Field. The Torah tells us that Rosh Hashanah is Yom Truah, the day to sound the shofar. The Sloman Rebbe connects the word Truah to the Hebrew word reut. Reut means friendship, alliance, solidarity. The word re'ah means friend, neighbor, fellow citizen. You may know the word re'echa from the famous passage in the Torah, Ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. Love your friend, love your neighbor, love your fellow citizen as yourself. Understood as reut, Truah is literally a call to rally to one another, to a shared vulnerability, a shared human identity as children of one source. The ideal and necessity of reut is expressed throughout our service. That's why almost all of our prayers are set in the first person plural. In fact, there are certain prayers, like the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, the Mourner's Kaddish, even the public reading of the Torah, that are not traditionally done unless there's a community that is gathered, a minyan, in other words, unless there is reut. In fact, the Baruch Hu, our calling to each other, is our truah to each other, our longing for reut with each other. When we sing the Baruch Hu, we are in effect singing, we are not fully human on our own. Come, let's be together. Let us confess together. Let's sing together. Let us be vulnerable together. Each one of us is calling out, I can't mourn without you. I can't learn what I need to learn without you. I can't turn without you. I can't be forgiven without you. Truah, understood as reut, means we are better together. We are more human together. We humans are built in such a way that our neurons mirror one another. Both socially and biologically, we're built to empathize and respond. When someone yawns, it's contagious. We yawn. When someone laughs, it can trigger us to laugh. When someone's crying, our eyes might also fill with tears. We are a we on so many levels. Even in our current reality, our virtual community, we are together in sacred time, even if not in the same sacred space. We are more human together today. The Sloman Rebbe teaches that Truah is a call to reut, a call for us to rally together. Therefore, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Truah, is the day for all human beings to be in reut, solidarity, even friendship. Reut is the state of knowing in the deepest part of ourselves that we can only be human together, even as we continue to define and redefine what together means for us right now. The shofar's truah for reut challenges us to go even beyond, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Reut calls us to an even higher level. Ve'ahavta l're'echa afilu lo kamocha. Love your neighbor, your fellow human being, even when, especially when, they are not like you. For this one before whom I stand also lives within me. The 89th Psalm includes the line, "Happy is the people who knows Truah." This Rosh Hashanah, may we be this people. On this Yom Truah, let us hear the shofar calling us to Reut. On this Rosh Hashanah, may we hear the shofar calling us to transcend any beliefs that are driving us apart, any fears that are keeping us small, any habits of mind that keep us from being our fullest and most authentic selves. On this day of Reut, may each one of us, in our own unique way, more fully join the whole human family to which we all belong. Hello, sun on my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of tulips and the nodding morning glories, and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer hameorot. Our praise to you, Adonai, creator of light. Our actions help us live in such a way that when we suffer life's darkest depredations, we will always have ways of coping with them. Our actions may not change the ultimate outcome one iota, but they alter our attitude, bolster our ability to withstand challenges, help us handle unavoidable misfortunes better, and see life's value amid chaos and dismay.
ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את רוע הגזרה.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישביענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חיים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהייך ציון לדור ודור. ונצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Loving Father, infinite power, gentle, forgiving, lofty, inscrutable, Avinu Malkeinu. Compassionate Mother, omnipotent Lord, comforting presence, fathomless mystery, Avinu Malkeinu. Our rock and redeemer, life of the universe, close to us always, impossibly far, Avinu Malkeinu. Embracing, confounding, accepting our frailty, decreeing our end, Avinu Malkeinu. None of these are true. None of them are you. Yet we stand as those before us have stood, summoned to judgment, longing for love. Avinu Malkeinu, may these words be a bridge. They come from our hearts. May they lead us to you. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu, Ki hein banu masim. Anshe Amunim, tzedakah v'chesed. Anshe Amunim, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Honeinu Vahaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Honeinu Vahaneinu, Ki Hein Banu Masim. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. We are so grateful that so many members of our Temple family stepped up for honors in our Torah services throughout the High Holy Days, particularly in these unique times. Today, we will hear the famous story of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. We will hear of the trials and tests faced by our patriarchs, Abraham and Isaac, and how they emerged on the other side. Our Haftorah portion is the story of Hannah from the book of Samuel. Hayom Harat Olam, today the world is born anew. These words, traditionally recited after the shofar is sounded, underscore a central theme of Rosh Hashanah, creation and the renewal of all life. The Haftorah chosen by our sages for the first day of Rosh Hashanah recounts the story of a barren woman whose prayers are answered by the birth of a child. Hannah, a woman of deep and spiritual grace, presents a model of heartfelt prayer and integrity that contrasts sharply with the behavior of Eli, the high priest. Hannah cries out to God in bitterness of spirit, and she is given life. Like her, we come together on Rosh Hashanah to seek renewed life and hope, to pray that we might transcend pain and transform our lives. We continue with our Torah service.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvara, Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, Ve'natan Lanu Et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Vayihi achar hadvorim ha'eleh, v'ha'Elohim nisa et Avraham, vayomer alav Avraham, vayomer hineni, vayomer kach na et bincha et yachidcha, asher ahavta et Yitzchak, v'lech lecha el Eretz Hamoraya, v'ha'alehu shom leolah al achad he'harim asher omar Elecho. V'yashkem Avraham baboker, v'yachavosh et hamoro, ויקח את שני נעריו איתו ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקץ עצי עולה, ויקם וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי וישע אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, ואני והנער נלכה עד כה ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אבי, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים, ואיה הסלולה. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים ירא לו הסלולה בני, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם, אברהם, ויאמר הנני. ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל נער, ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי עתה ידעתי. כי ירא אלוהים הטוב לו, חשכת את בנך, את יחידך ממני. וישב אברהם את עיניו, וירא והנה עיל אחר, נאחז בסבך בקרניו, וילך אברהם ויקח את העיל, ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא, אדוני ירא, אשר יאמר, היום בהר אדוני יראה. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים, ויאמר, בי נשבעתי נאום אדוני, כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה, ולא חשכת את בנך, את יחידך, כי בורך אברך, והרבה הרבה את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים וככל אשר על שפת הים, וירש זרעך את שער אויבן. והתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ עקב אשר שמעת בקולי. וישב אברהם אל נעריו, ויקמו, וילכו יחדיו אל באר שבע, וישב אברהם בבאר שבע.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Came a time when God called out to Abraham,
Abraham,
Hineni, I am here, Lord.
here's what I want you to do. Take your son, your only son, whom you love.
You mean Isaac? I do love Isaac.
I know that. I want you to take him to the land of Moriah, to a mountain that I'll show you, and offer him to me as a burnt offering.
Abraham did not utter a word of protest. Early the next morning he rose, harnessed his donkey, split the wood for the burnt offering, packed up supplies for the journey, gathered his 2 young servants and his son Isaac, and set off for Moriah. After 3 days, he saw Moriah in the distance, and he said to his servants,
You stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go further. We will worship and return to you.
Abraham took up the wood for the burnt offering and prepared to set forth. But Isaac, his son, stepped forward.
Here, let me carry that. I am young and strong.
So Abraham woefully loaded the wood onto the willing boy and took in his own hand just 2 items, a firestone and a sacrificial knife. Isaac frowned.
My father.
Hineni, what is it, my son?
Well, here's the firestone, and there's the wood. But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?
If Isaac had noticed the knife, he trembled to mention it. Abraham prevaricated.
God will provide the lamb, my son.
Isaac accepted this answer. They walked on together until they reached the place God had spoken of. There, Abraham duly constructed the altar and arranged the wood. And then he took some rope, and with profound grief, he bound his son on the altar atop the wood. Isaac was perplexed, and he cried out in fright, but he did not struggle or resist. Then Abraham stretched out his hand, shut his eyes against the tears, and raised the knife to slaughter his only son. At the last moment, the very last moment, God called from heaven.
Abraham, Abraham!
Hineni, here I am, God. I am doing what you said.
Do not lay your hand upon the boy. Do nothing to him. Now I know you are a God-fearing man, for you would not withhold your only son from me.
And Abraham lowered the knife. When he opened his eyes, lo and behold, there was a ram caught by his horns in a thicket. So Abraham gratefully offered the ram as a burnt offering in place of his son. In good time, Abraham called the place Adonai Yireh, the Lord will provide. And God made a promise to Abraham.
Because you would not deny me your only son, I will bless you greatly, and I will multiply your seed like stars in the sky and like sand by the sea. And all the earth's nations shall be blessed through your seed, because you obeyed my voice.
Abraham and Isaac returned to the waiting servants, and they all walked on to Beersheba. Abraham's spirit shone with a holy light, for he had passed the test. But Isaac, perhaps too young to understand, Isaac stared ahead for a long time, numb.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'retzav divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah Uv Moshe Avdo, Uv Yisrael Amo, Uvin Vihei HaEmet, Vatzedek.
Through the eternal, my heart knows joy.
And there was a man for Ramatayim Sophim, from the hills of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Yerocham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Tezuph, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives, one named Shana and the other named Peninnah. Peninnah had children, and Shana had no children. And this man would go up from his town every year to worship at Shiloh and make offerings to the Eternal of Heaven's hosts. And there Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Pinchas, were priests of the Eternal. And on the day when Elkanah would make offerings, he would give portions to his wife Peninnah and to each of her sons and daughters. And to Shana he would give a special portion, because he loved Shana, and the Eternal had closed her womb. And her rival wife would taunt her cruelly to make her tremble with grief, for the Eternal had closed her womb. And so it was year after year. when she would go up to the house of the Eternal. She taunted her, and she would cry and not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Chana, why do you cry, and why do you not eat, and why are you disheartened? Am I not worth more to you than 10 sons?
And Hannah arose after the eating and drinking at Shiloh, while Eli the priest sat upon the throne near the doorpost of the temple of the Eternal. And she, bitter to the core, prayed to the Eternal, weeping and crying. And she vowed and said, Eternal of heaven's hosts, if you will truly see your servant's affliction and remember me, and not forget your servant, and give your servant a son, I will give him to the Eternal all the days of his life, and no razor shall be lifted to his head.
And as her praying before the Eternal intensified, Eli watched her mouth. And Hannah, she was speaking only in her heart. Though her lips were moving, her voice could not be heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. And Eli said to her, How long will you persist in drunkenness? Put away your wine, get rid of it.
And Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord. A woman of sorrow am I. I drank neither wine nor spirits, but poured out my soul before the Eternal. Do not take your servant for a worthless woman. All this time I have spoken from the depth of my anger, from the greatness of my grievance.
Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant the request that you have made.
And she said, May your servant find grace in your sight. And the woman went on her way, and she ate, and her face was no longer as it had been. And they awoke early in the morning and worshipped before the Eternal, and they went home, returning to Ramah.
And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, and the Eternal remembered her. And so it was that, at the turn of the year, Hannah conceived, and then gave birth to a son. And she called him Samuel, because I requested him from the Eternal. And the man, Elkanah, and his whole household went up to make the annual offerings to the Eternal and to fulfill his vow.
But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, Until the boy is weaned, then I will bring him. Once he appears before the Eternal, he will stay there forever.
Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Do what you think is best. Wait until you have weaned him. Surely the Eternal will fulfill what your mouth has uttered. So the woman stayed and nursed her son until she weaned him. When she had weaned him, she took him up with her, with a 3-year-old bull, 1 ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Eternal, to Shiloh. And the boy was young. They slaughtered the bull and brought the boy to Eli.
And she said, Please, my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here with you, praying to the Eternal. It was for this boy that I prayed, and the Eternal granted my request. I, in turn, grant what the Eternal asks of him. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Eternal, and there they worshipped the Eternal. And Hannah prayed, saying, Through the Eternal my heart knows joy. Through the Eternal my horn is raised. My mouth opens wide against my foes, for I exult in your deliverance. There is nothing holy like the Eternal, for there is nothing beside you. And there is no rock like our God. Speak no more in lofty tones. Let arrogance leave your mouths. All-knowing is the eternal God, whose deeds cannot be measured. The bows of the mighty are broken, while those who falter find strength. Those who are full sell themselves for bread, and the hungry hunger no more. The one who is barren bears 7, and the mother of many is bereaved.
The Eternal is the maker of death and life, takes down to Sheol and brings back up. The Eternal makes poverty and wealth, casts low and raises aloft, lifts the poor from the dust, causes the needy to rise from dung heaps, and dwell among princes, then places them on thrones of honor. For the pillars of the earth belong to the Eternal, who founded the world upon them, who watches over the steps of the faithful, while turning evildoers silent in the darkness. For not by power shall a human being prevail. The Eternal shatters foes, thunders against them in the heavens. The Eternal judges the earth from end to end. So may God give strength to the sovereign, and raise high the horn of God's anointed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzaddik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'yoseh, hamdaber umkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah, v'al havodah, v'al hanviim, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, v'al yom hazikaron hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, lechavod ultifaret, al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umvarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid l'olam va'ed, u'divracha emet v'kayam lahad. Baruch atah Adonai melech hakol haaretz mekadesh hashabbat v'Yisrael v'yom hazikaron.
Zichronot, discerning the compassionate presence. A messenger from another time, a stranger here in our midst. The shofar sounds remembrance. Remember, wherever you go, I am with you. After the flood in the wake of destruction, Noah discovered the rainbow. Alone on a mountain, a knife in his hand, Abraham heard the voices of compassion. At the end of her strength, afraid for her child, Hagar found a well in the wilderness. Remember, wherever you go, I am with you. In sounding the horn, we summon them back, zichronot, memories of those who saw signs of your presence. A rock gives forth water, hope can blossom in the desert. And when loving hands lighten our darkness, you are there. When we are caught in the thicket, feel alone or forgotten, the shofar sounds remembrance. From the deep well of the past, in the depths of our own despair, the shofar sounds remembrance. Remember, my presence goes with you and will lighten your burden.
הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך, אל רם ונישא. הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך, אל רם ונישא. מבין ומאזין, מביט ומקשיב, לכל תקיע. תקיעתנו ותקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון, סדר וסדר, זיכרונות
God who heals all flesh, God who lives in each breath. Strengthen your people Israel and all who dwell on your earth at this time. Give us blessing and peace of mind. Grant our hearts strength to stand in our places and to stand at this moment of radical change. Provide a complete healing of body and spirit to all of the sick and to all of our loved ones. And grant to all those who are tending to their needs, nurses, doctors, family, and friends, the power to comfort and heal. When we are alone, may we find times to be at one with you. While we are withdrawn, may we still be with our family and friends. Enable us to take steps to bring help and assistance in all the ways that we can. Please, God, please heal us all. Heal us all with these words of blessing. There came a time that God called out to Abraham. V'ha'Elohim nisa et Avraham. And God put Abraham to the test. In ways large and small, profound and significant, unimaginable and inexplicable, 2020 is a year of challenges and tests. God put Abraham to the test. Every person in our community, our nation, and our world, each and every one of us knows from tests this year. While we don't believe that the tests and trials of 2020 are bestowed directly upon us by God, there certainly is an element of powerlessness in our struggles this year. Many of you have described feeling stuck to me, or vulnerable, or helpless. Many of you have told me you feel lonely and alone. There came a time when God put Abraham to the test, and it's not just one test after all. We are tested by challenges to our physical health and safety, and those of our friends and loved ones who may be suffering directly from coronavirus. We are tested by challenges to our mental and emotional health. The impacts of isolation, solitude, and separation from family and friends. We can't travel around the country or the world. and many of the places we're used to visiting are closed or far from the same. We are tested by challenges to our economy and our livelihood. We are tested by complexity and questions about that gray area, at least here in Berkshire County, of restaurants, office places, and schools gradually opening back up. Is it safe to do that? Is it safe to go there? How much risk is too much? And how do we navigate a new social order when different people in our circles make different choices than we would? Rasmus Hogard and Jacqueline Carter recently summarized the challenges of our current reality in the Harvard Business Review. Our daily habits and routines have all gone out the window. We're left in a sort of limbo, fretting over how long it will last and what will come next. All we really know at the end of the day is that our communities have been changed fundamentally. These liminal periods at the boundary of a new state or experience are complex spaces to occupy. They can make us feel untethered and disoriented. Hogard and Carter go on to note that to survive a crisis or transition, our minds reject or ignore the very things that would allow us to feel grounded and connected. Instead of reaching out for community and connection, we draw inward and focus on our own situation versus others. In the liminal space, in a time of crisis or uncertainty, we turn inward. Turning inward, reflection, introspection, all of these are good places to start, particularly at the cusp of a new year. But when turning inward turns to self-imposed isolation, we've lost the benefit of time to ourselves and have moved into a narrow place, a place of fear and loneliness, a place without empathy or connection. What is the antidote to isolation? Community. We are no strangers to community at Temple Anshe Amunim. We live and breathe community, and we have redefined it for this virtual, socially distant era. From calls to members, to helping with meals and groceries, from supporting each other through trying losses, to smiling at each other on Zoom each Shabbat. While we cannot join our voices together in song in typical ways, we have redefined music and communal singing for our time. And we have expanded what it means to be in community, with members and friends joining us from all around the world for services and events. Our current reality may keep us from sitting together, and it also breaks down all barriers of time and space. Community looks different right now, and we are a community more than ever. Hogard and Carter offer 3 ways to move from isolation to connection, to build community across the chaotic digital divide. Create a ritual to set intention and focus attention. Pay more attention to everyday senses and experiences. Be fully present with those around you. Fortunately, Judaism has prepared us to thrive in these liminal spaces for millennia. We are a people who sanctifies time as much as place. How do we understand that state of limbo, those not here, not there moments? With ritual and blessings. Last night in our gathering to welcome Shabbat and Rosh Hashanah, we recited the Kiddush, the blessing over the fruit of the vine. The Kiddush actually contains 2 blessings. The first thanks God for the gift of wine or grape juice. The second blessing actually calls upon God to transform time, from the regular, average, non-holiday or Shabbat days into sacred, holy time. In this case, one of our holiest days of the year. We bookend the conclusion of Shabbat or a holiday with Havdalah, where we transform sacred time back into ordinary days. For those brief few moments of those familiar blessings, we are in that in-between space. So even in these unprecedented times, in some ways, we've been here before. We weave together our community with rituals, radical awareness of the beauty in everyday moments, and shutting out the noise to be present with people, virtually or in person. Over the summer, as Andy Hochberg and I worked on his Torah portion together, we honed in on the word that means sacrifice. Don't forget that part, I joked. That's the entire point of the story. Abraham almost sacrifices his son. That's his test from God. Andy's words stuck with me. That isn't the essential part for me. I think the most important line is the two of them walked on together. Vayalchu shneichem yachdav. The two of them walked on together. That's community. We walk on together. We overcome trials and tests, but in a way, they are secondary if we have each other. If we create rituals to connect, pay attention to the world around us, and we are present, showing up for each other when it matters, even as we redefine what it means to be present. May we walk on together from strength to strength. May we reach outward and weave the bonds of community stronger than ever. May we mark these strange times not with worry or isolation, but with ritual and blessing. May we see the beauty all around us, and may we be present in all the ways we can. May our community be enriched and stronger than ever on that glorious day that we may return to our beloved sanctuary, knowing we have overcome trials and tests, and our community is closer than ever. Shana tova. I know that poverty must cease. I know this through the brokenness and conflict in my heart. I know that protest is my most prophetic act, and that the world is longing for a new soul, a new healing moment. I know that when we awaken to our origins and become truly human, we bring hope for the children and the earth. I feel called today to bring the people together to break the bread and tell the story. I feel called today to be a mystic in action, aligned to the dynamics of the universe. I feel called today to give my gift, to listen to the heartbeat of the broken world. To heal the fragmentation of people and planet, I feel called today to celebrate the wonder of creation and to respond to the sacredness and challenges of life. I feel called today to participate in the work of my time, to fall in love, to feel at home, to be inflamed with enduring hope, to be at one with the universe, to be touched by God. I feel called today to compose a new paragraph for life.
הרשת שפתנו ירד לפניך, הרם ונישא. הרשת שפתנו ירד לפניך, הרם ונישא. מבין ומאזין, מביט ומקשיב, לכל תקיע. תקיעתנו ותקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון, סדר וסדר שופרותינו.
We honor the memory of our loved ones with words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela ule'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlam Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories truly be a blessing for us all. God, bless this new year, the year 5781. Bless us with strength and kindness, with health, comfort, and safety, with the wisdom to see the long arc of history, to know that pandemics are temporary and God is eternal. Bless us with healing and love. Bless us with your presence and your nearness. Bless us with family, friends, and fellow members of our community to walk on this journey together. May we overcome life's trials and tests. May our rituals, holidays, and celebrations bring us surety and joy. May we reunite as a temple family and extended family, the family of humanity, speedily, safely, and in sacred community. May 5781 be the year when we pay attention and are present for one another. Shana tova.